Well, hi everyone. I'm Daniel Williams, Senior Editor at MGMA and host of the MGMA Podcast Network. We are back with another MGMA Member Spotlight Podcast, and we have a return guest, Veronica Villarreal. It's so good to have her here, and Veronica is Chief Ambulatory Officer at DHR Health Clinics. Veronica is also the author of the new book, C-Suite Bound: How Self-Discovery Leads to Ultimate Success. Veronica, first of all, congratulations and welcome back to the show.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Yeah, this is so neat. So just for our listeners who might not have heard you the first time you were on the MGMA podcast, just give us a little bit about your background, about what first gave you that spark to get into healthcare in the first place, and then we'll talk a little bit about DHR as well.
So I oversee right now, I'm the Chief Ambulatory Officer for a health system here in the Rio Grande Valley. So it's the tip of Texas, where South Padre Island is, where now SpaceX is in Brownsville, Texas. So that's exciting. I currently run 75 clinic locations with over 30 specialty and subspecialty service lines. Usually, we are now the highest employed specialty group in the Rio Grande Valley. Some of our specialists are actually from here, went to school somewhere else and came back. So that's really rewarding also to see, because that's something that I did. I got my master's in Houston and then came back to the Valley where I was raised. I made it to the C-suite at 30 years old, and now I just published my first book, and I'm not sure if it will be my last. I'm just trying to ride the wave right now. On really, the book was more inspired on how I didn't have that type of mentorship or someone that I could really relate to in the healthcare C-suite arena until I started making those relationships, not anything from before. And so my book is more based on self-discovery, how to be confident in making mistakes, how to be confident in having those difficult conversations with people you may have to end that relationship with. There's things that leadership books are not going to train you, because they're just training you to be a certain type of leader or lead a certain way. But if we don't know ourselves from the beginning and aren't as confident as we need to be to lead, then we really can't, learn from these books if we haven't learned what we need to do for ourselves.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that. So we're going to talk a lot about the book. It's really exciting. Now, you shared an email with me. I think it was maybe yesterday or so, but this is already on the bestseller list or things. Tell me and our audience a few of these lists that it's already reaching an audience there.
Yes, so it is the Amazon bestseller for 7 categories. The top 3 is women, spirituality and inspiration, women in business, Christian, professional, and business growth.
Wow.
And consulting as well. And so the consulting piece also has different branches of training and executive coaching. So I was pretty shocked when I had my post-launch call with my publishing
Right.
company for them to tell me not even in a week, it already had hit Amazon bestseller in 7 categories.
Right. I'm just grateful that we got you on here before you're on Reese's Book Club or Oprah's or somebody else's. So I just want to tell you, congratulations. Wow, that is such an amazing story.
Thank you so much.
You are very welcome. So let's talk a bit about the book. You were talking about some of the things that inspired it, but for someone who hasn't read it, who might not know anything about it, what's like the uh, one sentence elevator pitch about it? Maybe you and your publisher have talked about that, how you kind of describe what the book is. What is it in like a sentence or two?
Well, actually, an author, editor from Forbes magazine just featured my book on Forbes, and she really explained just the book entirely how it is. Um, I was very transparent. This book is to tell you the don'ts and do's and what I've experienced, what my colleagues have experienced navigating to get to the C-suite and being in the C-suite. So it's that type of book to let people know that it's possible for anyone. I think sometimes we think that you have to be a certain age to do a certain thing. Like for myself, I thought that was writing a book. I
Mm-hmm.
thought I had to be retired with so much experience to do it. And now it's done. So getting those things out of your head and having a better mindset for yourself. So it's a lot of inner work and things that people already know, but maybe have not had examples to show what saying yes to everything means or not doubting yourself. So it's from what I've heard, but obviously it's my core group support team. They
Yeah.
said it's very relatable. So I'm glad it is for some people.
That's wonderful. Now, I do want to ask one more question about this. So you were listing the categories that it's in. So it's in a business side, leadership side, but it's also in a spirituality and Christian side. So how did you merge those two, just so we get an idea of what the book is like?
I was very shocked that it was in those categories, to be honest. I was talking to my best friend, and she was like, how did it get to you talking about entrepreneurship, women in business, healthcare to these categories? A lot of it in my book is more inner work. I do talk about, my who my rocks are, and I want to say that's probably why I do always say sometimes I don't remember what I wrote in the book. And I was talking to my mom about it, and she was like, Mijita, it's God working through you. We're vessels of God. And I don't know, maybe that's how it got caught on, but it's a great question that I don't know the answer to.
Well, it is remarkable. So, thank you for sharing that. And I know you sent a copy over to me, and I've just gotten it, and so I'm looking forward to reading it as well. But I was able to make a lot of notes about it, so I want to dig deeper into it. So, in the book, and I did find this highlighted in here, you do discuss molding your career journey. So, can you share a defining moment then that shaped your own path?
For me, it was my undergrad. I had never really left the valley except Mexico, where my mom's side of the family is. And I didn't really know. Wait, I always say you don't know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not know there was a bigger world than just where I lived in Mexico.
Right.
So for me, my defining moment was my study abroad program that I did when I was 21 years old. The book kind of covers that, but I came back, I studied abroad in Morocco.
Okay.
So my first out of the country experience was in Africa.
Wow.
And it was amazing. I was there for the summer. People were so nice. People were so humble. We spent the night at the Sahara Desert, and that's where it hit me, where these guides knew languages because they picked them up from tourists. They
Hmm.
didn't have a TV, they don't have books to read, and they were just happy, dancing, talking, cooking. And that was their life. And to me, that I came back with that, like asking myself, is this a first world problem or is this a third world problem?
Mm-hmm.
So now sometimes I do go back and ask my team that. I'll even ask my mom, and she's like, what do you mean? But after that, she's like, I get it.
Right.
Because sometimes we do get in our heads like life isn't fair. We didn't have electricity for a week because of a hurricane. Well, some people don't have electricity, period.
Right.
So that was really what made me realize there's more in this world that I want to experience. There's more that I want to do to impact others. And so that's where I quickly just got focused on what I was going to do in my career and put that first before even my personal life. So that was the turning point for me.
Yeah, that is such a cool story. And thank you for sharing that. So, one of the other things you really talk about then is finding a purpose and then talking about, hey, if you haven't found your purpose yet, because that's a chapter I'm going to go to. I'm still trying to figure out my purpose before I retire down the road here. So someday I'll find that out, but I can't wait to hear your answer here. So talk about finding your purpose and then maybe some guideposts or guidelines for others if they're still looking on how to, carve out their own path and find that purpose for themselves.
So I've always been a very strong-willed individual. I think because I had to early on in life where I just felt like a protector. I had to protect everyone, even early on in elementary school. So I was like, I want to get into the healthcare field first as a doctor. My undergrad is pre-med. I said to help others. I thought that was the only way to help others was being a doctor until I
Mm-hmm.
got to college, then my master's in healthcare. I'm like, well, I can do the admin side. I never thought I would get to the C-suite at this age, but the more I rose up was not because I wanted a different title. It was, wow, I get to now lead a team. Wow, I now get to lead a bigger team. Now I get to, now at this age or this year, I'm seeing the team that I had before grow up too. And fortunately with me as well. So that has really just, I think that moves me, that keeps me going. People always tell me, well, what else do you do? Or what's your hobby? I'm like, work. But because work is not just my day to day, it's having that purpose, and why not be able to make impact in people's lives than the people that are the closest to me. So my purpose is very broad, is it is to help others. And I keep it that way because I'm not diagnosed as ADD, but I think I do have that,
Mm-hmm.
where I just am catching the next big thing I want to
Right.
do. And like I had mentioned to you, I think it's a little bit of FOMO where if someone's reaching out for me to do something, I'm like, yes. Because if I don't want to regret and then
Right.
see someone else do it when I had the chance to do it myself.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. So, you talked about this when we previously met, and it's also in your book as well. And it really talks about the importance of lifelong learning. So, talk about that. You talked about the undergrad, the MHA. You started out in pre med. I kind of wanted to follow up with that. I was in pre med until I got to organic chemistry, and I was one of those that it kind of, you go one way or the other when you hit, that's kind of the fork in the road for a lot of people is organic chemistry. And not my strong suit. Um, so I'm glad we have that in common. But anyway, let's talk about lifelong learning. What has it meant to you? And then what else can you share with others as you continue just every day, every year, like if you set out goals or anything else there to continue to just learn, be curious about everything that you're involved in?
It's interesting that we're talking about that. I really do believe in lifelong learning. And people ask me, well, what does that mean? I said it could mean anything. It doesn't mean that you have to go and read a book. It doesn't mean that you have to go and get a different degree. It could just mean having a conversation with someone that's an expert in a different field. You're learning from that. It could mean where you're asking your team, what else is out there? What have you seen, or what can we do better? It doesn't always have to be this structured thing, but I also do encourage people to get these certifications with MGMA. And this is not a shameless plug. I love MGMA. I think there's so much resources that MGMA members don't even know that are free for us. And I was talking to our HR director, and I told him, how do we get this mindset for the management team to be innovative and start thinking that way? Hey, what if, even if it's the craziest idea? For us in 2020 and COVID, we thought it was crazy to hire people from Peru, from Pakistan, from India. And now we have over 75 employees in these countries because
Wow.
we have working relationships with two companies. Edge is one of them. That's a virtual workforce that I've also been. I always tell people they don't pay me. When I believe in something, I'm
Right.
going to promote it. When I believe in people, I'm going to promote them. So that's what we're working on right now, is to see how do we get our management team to start thinking that way, because as you know, healthcare is probably tech as well. It's always changing. There's now new AI technology. How do we get administrative tasks that burden off the physicians? How do we get AI scribes? Is a virtual scribe work? There's so many things also in revenue cycles. So I do believe that if you're in healthcare, you have to be a lifelong learner to stay in the field.
Yeah, I will attest to that as well. I don't think there's a day that goes by now that I'm not using AI in one form or another, whether it's looking up movie trivia or helping me craft a very important email. I am in there using it and utilizing those tools. And it's so funny because it hasn't really even been 2 years now since it got introduced mainstream. And it's fully indoctrinated into how we do our work. So that's so cool there. One of the other things, you have a chapter that focuses on leading multi-generational teams. I have a 20-year-old and I have to change the dial in my brain a couple of times. Most of the time we're real simpatico, but still there's some language, terminology and some different things where I got to make sure I understand what's going on there. So talk about how to be successful when you do have multi-generational teams, as most organizations do, and how you make it inclusive to everyone and really allow an opportunity for them to be heard.
So don't feel bad, because I'm a millennial and I still don't think they think I'm cool anymore, our Gen Zers. So
Right,
I,
right.
you know, but it's fun because I think they think differently and I love it.
Yeah.
So for us, we are a very diverse, multi-generational team. And I think that's what makes us stronger, but that also is the most, I don't want to say headaches, but the most difficult to manage. But I always tell everyone we have to be empathetic to everyone's backgrounds. So once we start having that empathy at the beginning and saying, well, this person probably didn't mean to offend you, but they that's how they talk. That's what they see in social media. That's how they were raised with this type of societal norms. They're different in every generation. So for me, when someone comes to tell me about a certain individual, I start thinking, let's put that, that empathy hat on and say, okay, but why did he or she do that? And that's worked. I mean, honestly, that's probably the best advice I say. Don't try to put everyone in your box because that's never going to work. We're
Right.
all different, all of us, even in the same generations. There's some millennials that are like, well, I'm not a millennial, I'm a senior millennial. Doesn't matter. Let's all try to get to know each other a little bit better so we can understand what triggers us, what makes us tick, what are they passionate about, what am I passionate about. And that's how people start understanding each other. Okay, well, this person is this way because they were very structured. And sometimes we joke around, but those
Right.
structured people we really need as part of
Right.
our project implementation, because if we didn't have those people, we probably wouldn't complete a project on time. So
Yeah.
everyone brings value. They may annoy you sometimes, but I truly believe, and I even say it in my book, that people want to do the right thing. There's not someone that's trying to come to work to make everyone's life miserable. And if there is, then hopefully that person isn't in your organization for a long time.
Yeah, hearing you say that, we had a speaker, a keynote speaker at MGMA a few years ago, and we hear often the golden rule, treat others as you want to be treated, but this keynote speaker said, how about we adopt the platinum rule, treat people the way they want to be treated? And it really speaks to what you're saying. We communicate differently. We come from different backgrounds. Some people do have that very focused, I'm very analytical and I want to keep it in a very linear path. You mentioned ADD earlier. I have been diagnosed with that, and it is my total Zen focus sometimes to pay attention. And that's what I do for a living, is interview people. And so it's like, why are you doing the thing that's so hard for you to like really stay focused? But I have found, if I really tune in, that I can do that. But we come about things differently, right? So, I may go off on 14 tangents, so I have to be very aware of that, particularly if I'm talking to someone who does want to stay on a very linear path and not take those side steps there. So you may have noticed that as well.
I think all my friends are, because we have 99 conversations and I don't think any of them ever finish.
Well, those are just good friends, right? You're just enjoying each other's company. That's wonderful. So I'm looking at the time and I want to be respectful of your time. So let's talk about, for a last question, for listeners who aspire to reach executive positions, to get to that C-suite, what are the three top qualities that you talk about in the book and that you might want to share here with us now?
3 top qualities. Stay true to yourself. That's huge. I really stress that. Why? Because it's so much harder when you're trying to be someone you're not, or when you're trying to, mimic someone else's career goals.
Yeah.
So stay true to yourself, you'll get there. Second, patience. Patience is key. Sometimes and I've seen it with myself as well, is we're trying to get somewhere as fast as we can because we see others get there that fast. There's gonna be a road for you, and it's your road. It's not my road. It's not your Daniel's road. It's your road. So patience, because the third one will be focus. If you do not have patience, you will not be able to have that focus on your goals. I think those are the 3 qualities I do think from a success you will get to wherever you are meant to get.
Okay. So for people who are interested in the book, where do they find it? Do they go to Amazon? Is it available there, elsewhere, or mainly on Amazon?
Yes, it's on Amazon.com, and they can just Google my name and the title.
All right. Well, Veronica, thank you for joining us again.
Of course, thank you for having me. I didn't think when we talked about it a year ago that this would happen, and so it did. So I'm really happy to see you, and I hope I can see you at an MGMA conference soon.
I would love that. And you did. You told me a year ago you were thinking about a book, and here we are talking about your published book that's a bestseller. So, congratulations again. And so, everybody, if you're interested, it is C-Suite Bound. Let me get the whole title: How Self-Discovery Leads to Ultimate Success. And we've been talking to Veronica Villarreal. We will put direct links in the episode show notes so you can just click right to it and get your own copy. So until then, thank you all for being MGMA podcast listeners.